Hello, everyone. I'm Indra. Thank you for coming to this wonderful event with One HealthTech. Now, we're in the glorious buildings of Palantir, and upstairs folk are having dinner. So that's why there's a bit of noise upstairs. We can't do anything about it. They're hungry. They need to eat. However, I'm going to introduce Ben from Palantir, who's going to do the very important health and safety.
Hello. So first, just welcome on behalf of Palantir. Fire exits are to your left. Toilets are also to your left, as well as upstairs and by the double doors. I hope you enjoy the evening. There will be pizza afterwards, and there's also beer on tap. So feel free to stick around and enjoy the evening. Thank you.
Wow, more food. Thank you, Ben. So before we get started, I want to give a very warm welcome to you all. Thank you for coming. Thank you for not bearing with the rain, because it stopped, didn't it? That's brilliant. And also thank you for taking part to our glorious speakers. Now, one glorious speaker has unfortunately not been able to make it, Rachel Murphy. So I, the glorious Indra, will be taking place of the glorious Rachel. So please bear with me. I am not her, but oh my goodness, I'm falling off this stage. But it should all be okay. Now, normally I like to get you all to stand up and do a little high five, kiss each other, but there's a lot of wine and a lot of random cheese going around. So, because there's a lot of cheese, why don't you just turn to the person next to you and say, what is your favourite cheese? And if you could be a cheese, what cheese would you be? Okay, so we'll give you all a minute to say, who is your favourite cheese? Who or what?
I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't know their names.
Neither do I. Oh, God.
You like it?
He vlogs.
I know. It's all of it.
Brilliant. And by the loud natter, because now I couldn't hear the people upstairs, cheese must be far more exciting than being a CXIO. So, who can tell me the most outrageous cheese? Anybody had an outrageous cheese, like a really stinky something? Anybody want to volunteer? Stilton, so British. You know, I'm thinking like an applause, you know, that runs. No, okay. Well, that's good, because Stinky Bishop. Oh, interesting. Okay, great. So how many of you here are members of the glorious One HealthTech network? Hands up. Whoop, whoop. Hands up, you all. Those who aren't, shame on you. No, that's okay. You know where to sign up on the website, on Twitter, on social media. But for those of you who aren't aware, One HealthTech, we're a volunteer-led network. We believe in diversity and equality within the health tech sector. And as a brown female, I can stand testimony to you need diversity in technology. End of. I quite often get stopped at Heathrow because I can't get through the scanners. That's when I'm not with my children. When I'm with my children, there's a glorious human who lets me through. But when I'm not, that is quite often a problem. So that is testimony of why you need diversity in technology. And at the end, the wonderful Ellie will tell you a little bit more about the network. So without further ado, I want to introduce Nirali. Come on up. So Nirali, she is, let's just turn the page. There we go. The Chief Data Officer. Very important title. We love a chief, because this event is all about chiefs, isn't it? So she's a Chief Data Officer at AXA PPP, and I'm going to hand over to her.
Thanks, Indra. I have no slides. So, hi, I'm Nirali Patel. I'm the Chief Data Officer for AXA PPP. Can you put your hands up if you know what AXA PPP is? I'm going to go with you, my dear. Health insurance, yeah. So, prior to being at AXA PPP for the last 3 years, I was in the NHS, and I have been, I was nicely asked to come and talk about my time in the NHS, and also to talk to you how I got to where I've got to, and the differences between health insurance and the NHS. So in the NHS, just a bit of background, I was the Director of Business Intelligence for what was South East London Commissioning Support Unit. How many of you guys are from a commissioning support unit? They're probably not called those nowadays. Sort of. Got one over there. How many of you guys are from trusts, hospital trusts? Quite a few. And how many from GP federations? Because I know that group of people definitely hated us. So back in the NHS days, and I've done all my career in the NHS, I don't know how I fell into it. I just fell into data. I was good at Excel. And then I kind of fell into this role of data. I did computer science as my degree. And so between the coding and Excel and understanding health, I kind of fell into this world of a very niche market of health and data. If you ask other chief data officers or data leaders, it's a very similar story. They kind of fell into what they do today. I didn't grow up thinking I was going to be a chief data officer. I did grow up thinking I was going to be a doctor, got really bad GCSE results, and mum said, don't think that's for you. Talking about my mum, she has been my inspiration. She's the reason I do what I do and how I've got here today. She's always said to me, be independent, do what's right for you, but do what you believe in. And I know I now work at AXA PPP, which is a health insurance business, but I always wanted to see where could I use my skills to help the general population. And that's what I did with the NHS. And it was all about using data to define the right services for our population, to use data to, make sure the trusts and the GPs behave themselves. I'm not going to sit on either side of the fence on this one. But it wasn't an easy journey. I'm 38 years old. At the age of 35, I got an offer to exit the NHS and become the CDO for a corporate company. And I'll tell you about my life over the last 3 years. But it was an opportunity that I couldn't say no to. And I stood there and I got the offer through and I was like, I can't do this. And many people who are young, women, different backgrounds will sort of sit there saying, I can't do that. I'm not there. And it's a mindset we have as, a lot of people, is that if you don't feel you can do the job 80, 90% of the time, you won't go for it. My husband said to me, what's the worst that can happen? They're going to fire you. You go find yourself another job. And I went, thanks for the moral support here. So I kind of went, all right, let's take a punt. Let's give it a go. Because what I wanted to do, and I still have this vision, I genuinely believe between the NHS and health insurance, there can be a nice balanced blend that still helps our public. And for me, it's about how can my skills and my knowledge from the NHS help develop a better health future, because I don't want to see this sector like I've seen in other countries. So one benefit about being part of a wider AXA group, which is a global insurance brand, is I've learned about other health ecosystems in different countries. I've learned about how they've used data to get to where they want to get to. I've learned how they've designed services, how they've got the balance between public and private health sectors. And actually, a lot of them say, you guys are fantastic in England because you've got the NHS. It sorts everything out for you, to say the least. So over the years, I remember one particular boss of mine saying, Nirali, if you keep wearing dresses, that's the only way that you're going to get a job. And I'm sorry if this is politically incorrect. And I went, well, I'm comfortable in what I wear. It shouldn't affect the way my brain works or the way I bring my teams along. But what I wanted to say is that you can overcome this. Have your strong beliefs in what you do and just keep going forward, and you will get there. It's not an easy journey. I've got little children who say to me, it's really, they come home, they're like, Mum, it's really exciting. You work for a living, and I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, most of our friends' mums are at home. And I went, well, that's fine. That's what their lifestyle, work style balance is. For us, I like working. I genuinely love doing what I do. So when I got my offer from the NHS to come over to the dark side, as many people say, I thought, and the impression I had, I'm going into a corporate. It's going to be a top-class environment. It's going to have everything on tap. I'm not going to have to fight for every penny. Oh, my God. Was I wrong? I walked into an organisation, and it is a fantastic organisation. They make a ton of money every year. I walked into an organisation that hadn't put the person at the centre of its business. And the biggest difference whenever I get asked between the NHS and private sector is, in the NHS, we generally want to do better for our public. In the private sector, we do better to make profits. And it's that unless you are making a loss, you don't want to transform. So over the last 3 years, my journey has been, let's put the person at the centre of our business. Let's look at how we can stitch our data together. How can we look at opportunities and non-insurance products? How can we diversify our offerings? And which areas can we help and assist, in our public health service to ease the burden that keep increasing? So it's been a long journey. It's taking its time. The data, and I'm going back to data because that's where my background is really minimal compared to what I had in the NHS. So I used to, 3 years ago, sit in the commission support unit looking after 10 million patients worth of information, medical details, community trust, mental health trust, hospital details, stitch a whole care pathway together, and see where the service lines drop. Does it follow our NICE guidelines? Does it not follow NICE guidelines? All this wonderful plethora of information. I moved into the new world, and the other bit, the data was so minimal because the data was all about invoicing and billing. It wasn't about the actual treatment that the person had. And that was one of the big changes that I also found, is that there was no desire or there's no burning platform to change, but also the information available to you to make those changes was really minimal. So you had to use a lot of guesstimates, research. Public Health England's data and information was constantly on my desk saying, let's have a look at this and how do we change our services and our offerings to our members? How do we make our members, offerings more affordable for them? So that's kind of the journey I've been on. What I wanted to do is give you guys a bit of an opportunity to ask questions before I carry on about, I'll tell you about my kids and, my husband, who's really supportive to get to where I got to. The only tip I have, and I haven't done anything special, is I've just kind of worked hard and I've taken the opportunity and I've taken a punt. Whenever I get an opportunity, I'm like, should I give it a go or should I not? And one thing I've just learned over time is just give it a go. What's the worst, apart from getting fired, what is the worst that can happen? Yeah, because if someone's offering you an opportunity to step up, move on, become a manager, that means they must have some belief in you and take that with you and and help them move that journey on. Are there any questions? Oh, okay. Sorry. I can't talk. Go on.
Are we doing questions or
At the panel.
panel?
Been told at the panel, so pause. That's what I kind of wanted to say. Sorry, I can't talk for 15 minutes about myself. I can talk for 15 minutes about stats and numbers and everything. But so that's me. And there isn't a massive difference at the end of the day. Data's data. People want to make a change. The difference is the politics. The beauty I found and the thing I miss in the NHS is the fact that everyone works to the same goal, which is bettering the health of our public. But thank you.
Thank you, Nirali, and thank you for being so sharing with us. Next up, we have the wonderful Anna, who is a Chief Nursing Information Officer at Kettering General Hospital. Anna.
Hi, everyone. I don't know whether to stand on that side or should I stand on this side. Okay, so I have prepared some slides for this, but how do I start this? Okay, so my journey, see if I can get these slides up. Okay. So my journey is really about being an ODP as well. And not a lot of people know that I am, but I am an ODP. I do anesthetics. And I have a degree in biochemistry. Not only that, a master's in project management. And yeah, I'm an ODP. And apart from being an ODP, I tell you, I also design handbags. I do for a living, I do that. I also run a business here and in Africa, designing handbags and trying to help youth there to just kind of better themselves a bit in their life. And I tell you, I got frustrated at some point because I used to work for PwC and different companies and just I worked with Excel and all sorts of things. And being clinical and having that experience was also very interesting. And I saw nursing staff kind of struggling at some points because all they've done is nursing, not realize that at the end of the day, there's other skills that we can build, to kind of make things a little bit easier. So I saw a job online and I thought, okay, I'm going to apply for this job. The only reason why I applied, I'll be honest with you, was because it said BME are kind of welcome to apply. And I thought, this is interesting. So I thought, I'll apply, but I'm not going to get the job anyway. I'm just going to apply. And when I apply, I'm going to just see how the interview goes. And I'll just have a laugh at the interview and just take the piss in a way. So I did. I prepared really well. I must be honest. I thought, let's see if I do as well as I can for this interview, what would happen. I'll do it to the last T. So I did. I got got to the interview day, got there, and I was called in by the director of nursing, and I thought, oh my God, I'm being interviewed by a director of nursing. How am I going to do this? But anyway, I got in, and I knew she was going to ask me for my memory stick. I knew that was going to be the first question she would ask me. I had a 10-minute presentation. Guess what I did? Anyone? Have some faith in me. I had it in my hand, ready to go. I normally walk around with 2 handbags as the fact that I design handbags. So you can imagine that's all I do. I've got my 2 handbags there. So she had a preconception in her mind about me that, one, I was going to start looking in my bag for this blimming, USB stick. And I could see her face already kind of having that bit of doubt and, oh God, it's going to be a minute or 5 minutes before she finds his memory stick. So she asked me and I said, okay, yep. And I stretched my hand out and she was like, this. That was, I swear to you, I had to find something that could give you an idea of what she looked like. That was her face. I think she really was absolutely impressed and she could not believe it. But having said that, the interview went, kind of well. That's why I'm here. And then I was told when I got into the organisation to do, I don't know if anyone have heard of productive ward. Anyone heard of it? It was one of those kind of improvement kind of modules, multiple modules. And you're giving me this in 2017. I thought, well, they've already implemented these things. I don't understand what I'm meant to do now. She goes, well, we're going back to basics and I want you to just get it done. And that was all I was given. I was given no money and that was all I was given. And I was given no resources and I thought, great, this is amazing. So then the journey actually began. I sat down and thought, okay, lean methodology. Google, what is lean methodology? And then I had to start researching and create something out of nothing. The thing was for me was trying to network within my organization. I found it really difficult because there was nothing for anybody to know who started this, productive wars in the past or who had any information within the organization to actually help me. I didn't know who anyone was. So it was quite difficult for me. So I had to go out there, understand what was going on within the organization. And I think I thought to myself, let me actually understand the people I'm going to be working with. Let me understand the type of people I'm actually going to be serving. If you don't know the people you're going to serve, how do you allow them to do the changes that they are going to do? So I went onto the boards, and I tell you, it was not funny. And I put boards up there, and you can imagine the amount of resistance I got. And I only asked a couple of questions, and it was, what are we doing right? I didn't want to put there what we're doing wrong, because you can imagine what was going to be on there. And then asked again, what needs improving? And then asked them, how can we solve it? So those are the 3 basic questions when I first walked into the organization. I put on every single board. And I can tell you, within 24 hours, those boards were filled up. I literally had to start pulling information, trying to understand what was going on. But the good thing is, it made me understand the heat map of what was going on in the hospital, were the no-go areas were not to actually start change, implementation. Instantly, I would say, okay, that ward needs escalation. Something's wrong with the manager on that ward. I don't know what it is, but can we fix it? And I had to escalate a lot of things. So at the back of that, I just then created this course with other members of the team for the wards, and it was quite interesting to see that listening to staff is really important. Even though we want to make change, just listening to what they have to say and what the problems were. And because we already had that kind of data, we had a little bit of an understanding of how to put the course together. So that was done. I had to make sure there was loads of drinks and food and things to bribe the staff to get them to come and do the course. I'll tell you what was very interesting. That's how it looked like. It was really good. So staff would actually come on their days off because of this. And I was really, I was gobsmacked because mostly the staff don't actually attend because they say we're too busy. That's what you hear when you get on the wards. Well, I'm sorry, I'm too busy. And they won't take that time to come in to just, do that extra piece. So after that, basically, what I then did was surveys. Because I thought, apart from me putting these courses out, what do they actually think about what we're doing? Is it actually making any change? Apart from the change, apart from the change that's happening within the organisation, what I looked at was questions and what did they think of us? And I asked them, what would you rate the teaching of this course? That's what we got back. I asked them, how would you rate the course content? And that was what we got back. And also, how would you rate the teaching environment? And it was quite interesting just to ask these simple questions to help you improve the way you actually, kind of try to transform a team. Now, for me, I then contacted people in charge of the staff app. I said, how do I get information to these nurses that it's at their fingertips? And I don't know if you go on the wards, sometimes you can't get a computer because other people are using the computer. So what do I do that I know they've all got, which is a mobile phone? So how do I bring data into their hands and let them understand simple things like getting onto the wall, getting information about the course? And so I decided to put it all on the staff app, and I tell you, it was amazing. It increased engagement straight away. It increased the quality of care that was given because they were actually able to do improvement works within, the team working that we did. There were immediate results. The patient experience would have increased. The patient safety increased, and also consistency. The fact that everyone knew where they were going for the course. It wasn't a situation of not understanding what was happening. It was just there on their fingertips. Had other projects and other programs that I had to do. But I tell you, I think for me, the pinnacle moment was when I was trying to understand what I could do to bring, different people within different projects together, because we didn't have that. And I discovered something called Live QI. I found my director of nursing on that, and I thought, oh, okay, she's on this. This is interesting. And then I went to her and said, okay, I think we all working in a silo. We need to all kind of link everything together. So I kind of did a little piece for her and gave it to her. And I think that's when she saw me and she realized there's something about this young lady. So, before I get to that, my first couple of months has been really hard. And I mean, it's been the most difficult first couple of months for me. It's been rewarding. I've had to engage a lot of senior staff. I've had to do a lot of things to just try to see what my engagement would be. And I think if you can get your deputy director of nursing to do what I'm about to show you, I think it's the most important thing is engagement, communication, getting your communication team out there, letting them understand, letting the staff in the hospital understand what's going on. And this is just what happened. She's fluffing. So for me, I thought that was amazing. It was the most difficult thing to do, but if you can engage with senior stakeholders, you can engage with staff on the ward. You've got to try to engage with people from all levels. Now, what I had to learn fast was understanding the technology I was about to bring in to staff. I thought, for me, that's the most important thing. You need to understand the technology you're about to share with people. And also, you're going to play multiple roles as a CNIO. You're not going to just be sat in an office. You need to get out there. You need to be on the walls. You need to be talking to people. You need to be a business change person. You need to be the person that does the Excel spreadsheets when no one knows how to do it. You are going to do multiple roles and understanding policies and also keeping a detailed clinical risk log. For me, I thought, oh my goodness, do I actually have to do all this? But actually the answer is, you're not getting away from it. It's your job. You're accountable for it. But what was very interesting and good that I enjoyed is the fact that as a transformation program manager previously, all the things I did helped in my role to become a CNIO today. So every knowledge that you have is going to be useful to becoming a CNIO or a CXIO, whatever you decide to move forward with. Now, I think for me, the hacks are that be prepared. In anything you do, just be prepared. Investigate. When you get into an organization, don't just do things without understanding the statistics behind it. Try to understand what's happening actually on the ward or the areas you're going to work with. Also, know the people that you're going to serve. Take the challenge. No matter what the challenge is, I think just take the challenge. Don't so I don't think I can do this. I know it's difficult, but I think taking the challenge is a very good one. Also, network. I think within your organization is a massive thing. You've got to network within your organization and outside the organization. And be seen. Let people see you and know who you are and what you're doing to make a difference in their lives. And let staff feel that you can see them and get feedback. Don't just do it. Understand why you're doing what you're doing. Some more hacks. So do things a bit differently. You might be different, but I'll say do things a little bit differently as well. Just keep going. And never, ever give up, no matter what it is. Just keep climbing. This lady up here, she is a Black Canadian climber called Sabrina Chapman, and she believes that when people look at her, they can see something that they can relate to. And if they can relate to it, then they can do it too. Listen. I think it's a massive thing. We do a lot of talking as managers and telling people what to do. I think it's to change anything, you've got to first listen. Also, social media is a massive thing. Like you can see, I use TikTok as a way to engage with my deputy director of nursing, and it worked. Also, don't reinvent the wheel. A lot of people don't network with other NHS organizations. Someone else has probably done it. Why not call them and say, I realize that you've done the same thing I'm trying to do. Can you please give me a hand? I think don't reinvent the wheel is a big one as well. And pinch with pride. Don't say because someone else has done it, I want to do it myself. Pinch with pride. Get the paperwork, get documentation and make it better. Things I would love to improve is my knowledge, personally. I find that there are a lot of things that I'm missing, a lot of gaps. And I'm currently working on that. I've got a course tomorrow with the Leadership Academy in Leeds. So I'm off there tomorrow to do the Ready Now program, just to see, something in a different way. So I think if we could, that's for me one of the big things. And also, one of the issues I found for me that I think I need to really, really develop is confidence in the boardroom. Because I find that sometimes I walk in there, I'm the only black person in there. And for me, that is really scary. I walk in there, I don't see anyone that looks like me. I find that really, really scary. And the fact that you've not had the experience because you've never had the opportunity to be given that experience. Everybody else understands how to behave in there, or how to talk, or what to say, what to prepare. I don't. I just kind of wing it half the time. I get away with it. But that's all I have to really say. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and thank you for being so honest with us. It can be really hard. So now we're going to enter a panel discussion, but before we do that, I'd like to invite 2 more speakers to the stage. So the next up, and as you can see, this is quite an unusual panel so far, brown, 1, woman, 2. So to diversify it a bit, because we do believe in diversity here at One HealthTech, I'd like to invite Simon Eccles, who's a Deputy CEO at NHSX.
Thank you. Yes, it is a true testament to the success of the evening if I'm supplying the diversity to a panel. That's brilliant. I'm going to dine out on that for some time. So yes, I'm Simon Eccles. I'm the CCIO for health and care for the NHS and for social care. What's that mean? I oversee delivery of central healthcare technology, which is roughly 1.2 billion a year of expenditure. We're trying to balance those central demands from our diverse range of leaders. Yes, many called Simon, many called Matthew. With the frontline demands of the NHS, some of which you've just been hearing. I've been NHS my entire career, and I'm afraid I'm utterly committed to it. I'm following my mother's footsteps, who was a GP, and I'm sort of public sector through and through. Interesting, when I applied for and got this job, there was an interesting conversation about whether I'd be happy to take a pay cut to start. And so do run that one past me again. I may have missed the detail. Everybody does, because you'll make a lot when you leave this and go into the private sector. We've got a misunderstanding here. So no, I don't intend to leave and go into the private sector. I got involved in this at all way back from when I was a provisionally registered house officer at the London hospital. And I got asked to consent parents for cleft lip and palate surgery for their children. And I'd never seen cleft lip and palate surgery being done. And they were using thread finer than human hair. And I said, I don't think I can consent the parents because I don't know what the complications of the operation are. And I got threatened with being sacked and hauled in front of the dean of the medical school, the postgraduate school, who fortunately backed me. And as you probably know, it's now national policy that you don't consent somebody unless you know how to undertake the operation. It took some time to change that. I got involved in IT as the national clinical lead for hospital doctors because I got tapped on the shoulder in the back of a taxi by another middle-aged white man, suggesting that I, as a less middle-aged white man, could probably do that job quite well. And I said, yes, I think I could, knowing nothing about IT. There you are. That's how the world works. And it shouldn't be. And I'm committed to trying to change that. And I had a brilliant conversation at the launch of the Shera network that there are a huge number of people who have never been tapped on the shoulder and advised that a job that is not yet advertised would almost certainly be the right thing for them. And we need to change that, not tapping them on the shoulder, change the way we approach jobs, change the way we get more people involved. And I'm committed to it. I did 6 years in the national programme for IT, as then was, with 3 different bosses. And I can say with some pride that no one ever threw a phone at me. I got burnt out as hell at the end of that and went back to clinical practice for a while. I applied for the national director for IT post and didn't get it, and the medical director post for London and didn't get it. And to put it in perspective, and some of you will know those sorts of jobs, they were each about 3 months of prep for those interviews, of almost nothing else. And I advise any of you, and you stand back on your feet and you dust yourself down and you work out what you're going to do next. And this job came up and I thought, actually, that is a job I would really like to do. And I got it fair and square in open competition. I hasten to point out to people, I think I only do jobs I'm tapped on the shoulder. Interesting, the feedback from the last, I will stop in a second. Come on, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. But the feedback for the previous 2 was, could I need to be a little older and a little a little more serious. I have succeeded admirably in the former. But in a role like this one, if you're not human, you're not approachable, you're not absolutely in touch with why this is necessary, you become a distant figure. That's fatal, I would suggest. And technology can get very distant from the people it applies to, and that makes it impossible to implement successfully. So no, I hope I haven't got too serious, and we can talk about that more over questions.
Thank you, Simon. And lastly, I'd like to introduce Shera, who is both a GP and a medical director for Tower Hamlets. But more importantly, she's one of the co-founders of the Shuri Network. Shera, thank you.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me at the back? Is this working? Yes, I think it is. I think what struck me about what Anna, Nirali, and Simon said about their careers is their willingness to give it a go and to take risks. It was a hard act to follow, the three of them. Anyway, I'm Shera. I'm a GP in Tower Hamlets. And before this, I was CCIO in Derbyshire Community, one of the biggest community health service providers in the country. And I'll tell you a couple of things about myself. Before becoming a doctor, I worked as a nurse. And that's because halfway through medical school, my dad lost his job. And so to try and help my family and to try and do things like medical student electives, I thought, I'm going to try and support myself. So first of all, I worked at J. Norman on Oxford Street. And I don't know if any of you have been to J. Norman. I was probably the world's worst sales assistant. I think I lasted about 3 weeks because I couldn't remember where any of these lycra dresses or skirts, this was the 80s, I couldn't remember where they were, so I just used to shove them. And then I found auxiliary nursing, and I was a little bit better at that. And I used to spend my weekends in geriatric wards in North London around Mornington Crescent and Camden, working with very frail older people, many of whom had dementia. And that gave me a real insight into what it was like for the patients and also for the nursing staff. Second thing I'm going to tell you about myself is I was also the most reluctant CCIO in the NHS in 2016 when I went to Derbyshire. I went up thinking I would be the Associate Medical Director. At the interview, when I was offered the job, they said, by the way, you will also be the CCIO. I had to go and sit in my car and Google, what is a CCIO? And then take it from there. But it turned out to be one of the best jobs I've ever done because it gave me a chance to implement change relatively quickly for the NHS. Gave me a chance to work with people I hadn't worked with before, like on the IT team and our therapists and our community nurses, and roll out EPR across 13 community hospitals. And some of our fiercest critics, who were the nurses at the beginning of the EPR rollout project, were actually leading the change of the next phase by the time I left. So why am I telling you this about myself? I think firstly, we are the product of our experiences, and we need to bring our whole self to whatever job we do, whether it's as a nurse or a GP or a data analyst or a CIO. And this is where diversity comes in. This is where our experiences, our cultural beliefs, our backgrounds actually make us better as clinicians or CIOs or whatever it is we do in the NHS or in the private sector. The second thing I want to tell you is if I can be a CCIO, then so can most of you in this room, because I am not a technical wizard. In fact, I can barely make my television work. But it's really about relationships. It's, as Anna said, listening to people. It's about building consensus and taking people with you and helping them actually lead the next phase of implementation. And the last thing I want to talk about and share with you that's been instrumental in my career is your networks. And the thing that's helped me the most is building networks of support, because life is tough. Discrimination actually gets worse, as I found, the higher up you go. It doesn't get any easier. And if you don't have your support network, it's going to be 10 times harder. So that's why we set up the Shuri Network, which, like One HealthTech, is to build up that support network. Ours is for women of color who are interested in tech and digital health. We're very new. We only launched about 3 months ago, but it's been a wild ride. And we hope that you'll join us as well as the One HealthTech Network, so you can be members of more than one. That's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shera. Do you take a seat? Now, I'm really conscious of the user design of this stage. So we're all here. So if anybody at that end of the room wants to come this side, there are some spaces here. Do feel free to move. If you're feeling lazy and you don't want to, that's fine as well. So I'm going to take chair's prerogative and kick off with the first question, and then we'll open up to the other. And Maxine there has the mic. So what I would ask, if you could just say who you are and where you're from, and then go forth with your question. So I have two questions, and I'm going to say them both, and I don't expect an answer to the second question till the end. My first question to all of you is, what's the most impactful thing you've done so far in your career? And that could range from anything. And my second question is, so One HealthTechers, we're a network which spans across the country, and on Friday we all got together. And everybody in the room was asked, what makes you remarkable? And there was a lot of emotion and a lot of tears. So I would like to ask you all, you've all been very personal and shared some things with us. And if there are tears, we're One HealthTech, we embrace tears. But I would say, what makes you remarkable? So I'll ask Anna, do you want to crack on with the first question? I'm not expecting an answer to the second question just yet.
So the first one is, what makes me remarkable?
What's the most impactful thing you've done in your career?
That one. Oh, God. That's not fair. I didn't want to answer that. The most impactful thing, I think for me, is doing what I know I couldn't do. I think for me what changed my whole career path in total. Just doing that thing that people won't even bother applying for the job in the first place, because I think that is the first hurdle for a black woman. It's just, you won't even bother. Then getting to that interview is it's another big hurdle. So I think for me, it's just doing what I know I really can't do, and I think I would failing. I think just going over that hurdle, I think for me, yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh, I think for me, it's being a parent and being responsible for two young children and influencing their lives in the world that we live in today.
You all do have mics, so you don't have to share. Yeah.
Top being a parent. I'll come back to the parenting thing in answer two. But the most impactful, probably, genuinely, was putting my hand up in this job and saying this isn't working, and it wasn't. This is going back just over a year, and I couldn't get that message understood. So I ended up going to the chief exec of the civil service, John Manzoni, who's quite an interesting, very powerful man, and saying, this isn't working. Our governance setup is essentially designed to be at war with itself. Anyway, long story short, we've ended up with NHSX that brings together the Department of Health and Social Care and Policy and all the rest in one place. And it's one hell of a challenge to set it up, and we're still in the process of doing that. But if this thing's going to work at all, its governance and its line diagrams and its hierarchies are all irrelevant to having a culture in which people can genuinely have a conversation rather than trying to work out who reports to who. And if we've succeeded in that, that is the most impactful thing I've done. But the jury's still out, and some of the people affected are in the room, and they'll let you know how we're doing.
Thank you.
So I was on a bus about a year ago, and opposite me on the bus in Whitechapel was a Somali lady and a teenage girl. And she suddenly leaned across to me and said, "Dr. Chok, the last time I saw you, she was in my tummy." And this is a lady I treated as a GP in a previous practice 13 or 14 years ago. And I think that made me almost cry on the bus, because it's that privilege of touching someone's life, even if you just see them for 10 minutes or 20 minutes of their lives, but they remember you forever for whatever it is I did. I don't think I was particularly nice to her. In fact, I think we had some arguments because she was quite feisty, and we probably had a few argy-bargies about medication. But it just brought home to me the impact as health professionals that we can give to our patients.
Brilliant. Oh my God, I think you might have answered 2 questions in one there. What makes you remarkable? So I'm going to open it up to the floor. I know there was a question earlier that was, did you want to sort of shout it out? There are some mics.
Well, it was just after. Oh, I'm Adam, and I'm trying to set up the Federation of Informatics Professionals as part of the BCS, but it's not about that. Nirali said something about, so she's transitioned from the NHS to the private sector, still passionate clearly about the public task, and nowhere is it more obvious than in the health service for a very emotive reason we've just heard. What's going to tempt you back?
The right opportunity, and I don't know what that looks like or what it will be, and that's the pleasure, or that's the uncertainty I've had in my entire career. I don't know what I'm looking for, but when it stares me in the face, I know that's what I want. So if it comes across, then I'll be like, great, I'm back there, mate.
Great. We have a question at the back here?
Hi, I'm Jonathan. I'm a foundation doctor working in Brighton. My question is actually an expansion on what Dr. Eccles mentioned. And I'm wondering what it is about the governance that you would like to see changed within the NHS, within civil service.
Remember, this is a short
And retain my job. So, if I depersonalise it from NHSX England or Department of Health and Social Care, we can play alphabet soup, by the way, of NHS Digital, NHS England, NHS Improvement, and NHSX. And if you get them in the wrong order, you go die, kiss. Somebody like that. But if I go out to the wider NHS, and I spend a lot of time visiting hospitals for various bits and reasons, within almost no time of walking into an NHS organisation and walking around it, you know whether their approach to technology is clinically led, centred on how they're going to make care better, or whether it's finance/technically led around feeding the beast. You just know it, and it's absolutely binary and obvious. And there's good work from Class, amongst others, who Rachel Dunscombe, who we may be hearing from later, closing VT, fab. Well, she works for now. That the same software systems, Epic and Cerner, that are two of the biggest in the world, are responsible for some of the most innovative organisations in the world and some of the least. It's not about the software. It's not about the kit. It's about the way that organisation chooses to use it. And if you go into some fab organisations, Milton Keynes and West Suffolk would spring to mind amongst many others, they've got a really flat hierarchical feel that anyone approaches anyone. I did my first consultant 6-7 years at the Homerton, which was the same. The chief exec's door was always open. Anyone could go in there. That's just how it was. In the least effective, it's a vertical hierarchy. You speak to the layer above and they speak to the layer above that. And other industries got rid of that years ago, and the NHS has been relatively slow to appreciate that change.
Thank you. Got some questions here.
Thanks. Hi there, I'm Dennis. I'm the head of technology at the Health Innovation Network. I'm just curious, with all the kind of brain power on the stage and your experience, what are the kind of key attributes you'd like to see in CIOs coming through now, or key skills?
So key attributes and key skills in the upcoming generation. Open to the floor.
I think for me, it's, and I look at it whether in the NHS or in my current organisation, I'm looking at succession planning, and I'm looking for people that can communicate and can listen and can understand. So I'm not looking for technical skills. You know, for me, it's about the communication and the listening and respect for one another. Yeah, ignoring the hierarchy issue that you just spoke about, because everyone adds value to an organisation, and that's what, and who's got the courage to speak that value up.
Anyone else?
I agree.
Okay, great. Resounding agreement. Brilliant. Got a lady here. all very quiet, very serious tonight.
Hi, Alice Morris. I work for Barts Health in the Life Sciences team. I'm interested in how you think we as an NHS can reflect the importance of diversity when you reflect back and look at the government, which is essentially a old boys club to get to the top. And are we being impactful enough with the data to show the importance actually to patient care about diversity? Because if you look into the private sector, they've proved diversity is important to make money, basically. And I think we've got the most powerful way of proving that diversity is important, because you can see that in patient care. And that's really obvious in diversity statistics from a medical perspective.
So I'm just going to ask you to focus your question, because
I guess what's our responsibility as the NHS, and how do we make more of our platform to show the impact on that?
Anybody have an answer to that?
The least appropriate person to answer, but let me give it a go. There's clear evidence that diverse leadership results in improved job satisfaction for workers at all levels within organisations. The NHS, it's by a phenomenal margin, its largest expenditure is on its workforce, and organisations with unhappy workforces are very obvious in reflected in the quality of patient care they deliver. And if you've ever been a patient, or I used to do CQC inspections, my God, it shines. It's so awful right throughout those organisations. In organisations that have that diversity reflected, that have that approachability and humanity reflected in their leadership, it cascades down without any formal process to every layer of that organisation, and the patients receive better care, their staff turnover is lower, satisfaction goes higher, their locum bills are lower. What's not to love? He says, as an exec in NHS England, which is not necessarily as diverse as it could be.
So 77% of the NHS workforce is female. About 20% are people of colour. I'm going to ask you, the audience, a question. Since it's all about being a CXIO tonight, there are probably about 500 CIOs and CCIOs across the NHS. How many do you think are women of colour, given the statistics I've just given you? If you think the answer is 30, please raise your hands now.
One person.
If you think the answer is 12, if you think the answer is 5.
Ooh.
Yes. Great. The answer is 5. In fact, a few months ago, we thought it was 3 until we found Anna. Woo! And someone else. So you instantly increased it by X%. So there is a lot more that we need to do, clearly. There is a huge disjoint between people using the technology and the people leading the transformation.
Thank you. And just to add to that, as a slightly controversial, I don't know if your question stemmed from the Harvard Business Review, that was the article that came out a couple of weeks ago. But I've sat on lots of panels like this where and I've been at lots of events where women who succeed normally have partners who are very supportive. Now, I'm very lucky, and I'm not sure about the women on the panel, but I'm very lucky that I have a partner who supports me. As does Simon. But I'm very lucky. So, for example, tonight is an evening event. We've all talked about children. I'm very lucky to have somebody who says, no, go out, go and network, go and tap people on the shoulder or be tapped on the shoulder. And I think there's a lot that we can learn from companies who actually support the males in society. And quite often you find that if males aren't supported, it is difficult for females to come up. And I think the Nordics are a good example of that. So I'm going to hand over if anybody else has a question. Maxine, do you have a question?
I've got a question.
You have a question?
I feel it's a bit cheeky, but I've got the microphone anyway. So Maxine, a PhD student at the Alan Turing Institute. So a lot of the questions have been around the very important kind of soft skills, but I've got a sort of slightly more techie question. I do lots of statistics. That's not a very useful skill, I suspect, to be a CXIO. But what are the concrete technical skills that are very useful for you to be able to deliver your job?
Technical skills now. Technical. Everybody looks. We'll give it the Chief Data Officer.
Actually understand some data. So what technical skills? Well, I was having a conversation earlier on, just before I came down the stairs, with my head of data management. And we're gathering the data, we're trying to produce what we call data families. So we're trying to group and tag our data. And he's like, well, the code that you wrote 3 years ago isn't efficient. And I went, well, I wrote that code 3 years ago. Why the hell are you using it today? Because if I looked at that code today, I'd have no clue, what it was. So in terms of technical skills, it's less about being able to code. It's more about being able to understand when an expert in that field now tells you that your code is really poor. It is important to understand, to become a CXIO, and I hope these guys sort of back me up here, finance and financial budgets. That's one of the things that I have actually struggled with. I have lived and breathed data all my life, but when someone shows me a financial accounting sheet, my brain goes blank, and that's one of the areas I've developed as I've moved up the ranks. I've had to understand how budgets work, how the numbers tally, and how the whole accounting thing. So if that's one skill, please go have a little Google and a little look into that area if you want to get into this level.
So speaking of the hard skills rather than the soft, I think finance is absolutely one of them. A sound understanding of evidence base, irrespective of where that evidence base may be. So there's a lot of what we do where actually it's the clinical evidence base of change that may be part of it. There's some that may be technical, but be able to walk your way around a paper is helpful on this. A sufficient clinical understanding and a reasonably modern, sufficient technical understanding and reasonably modern technical understanding of both agile business practice and modern technical change to spot when you're being bamboozled or bullshitted. So anybody who comes to talk to me and manages to successfully mention AI, genomics, and blockchain in the same sentence is going to get lobbed out of the door very politely in a non-hierarchical manner, but from a sixth floor window. I say that, but I've had pitches from serious-minded entrepreneurs that have been quite clearly peddling manure. I mean, there's been no substance underneath that whatsoever when you dig into it. And I've watched people with brilliant soft skills, but without any of the core technical skills going, that was fascinating. Wow, they're going to change the world. You go, no, they're not. No, there is nothing there. The balloon is full of hot air. So it's got to be the right combination, or we'll all be fabulously group huggy, but actually there's a bit of a job to do and a lot of cash needed to get it right.
I think that's completely true. I think when I did my MBA, the single most useful thing is to be able to spot the bullshit from managers afterwards. So completely agree with the points made.
I mean, I agree, but I think it's also business change is very, very, very a big one. It's a big one. And being able to understand how to do it, process maps, stuff like within that, I think is, as a CXIO, it's a big one to know because you're doing change. You need to know your starting point and where you're going in the first place.
Great, thank you. I've got a few questions here now. Yeah, we can take. Should we take these two? So we've got. Yeah, everybody's got warmed up because we talked about horse manure and money. It's a great combination, isn't it? So we'll take the two here at the front. There's one there and Belinda at the back.
Hi, I'm Catherine Pollard. I work for the Cambridge and Peterborough STP, and I am the hub curator for the Cambridge One Health Network. And this is a plug. We have our launch event in 2 weeks, so everyone please come. So my question is, and it really follows on from the last one, is I'm really new to the digital innovation space, and my kind of current very cynical response is I'm finding a lot of solutions in search of problems as opposed to problems in search of solutions. Simon and I had the conversation already. But so my question to the panel is, if you were going to pick one problem that you thought either digital or data, could really, really transform and generate real public value, what would it be?
Great. And so we'll take Belinda's question. So one problem. Belinda?
Hi. I actually have two questions. I'm just going to ask the one.
You just need to say who you are.
Oh, Belinda, I'm a GP and a member of the core team One HealthTech. Right. So I'll just start off with, we talked a lot about the positive aspects of the roles, but if you're happy to do so, can you share any kind of really heart sink moments or moments where you've just felt really scared or whether there's been kind of an incident or something that's really challenged you, and how you came out of that. You know, whether you did that as part of a team, how you did that.
Right, we're going to take a low point in the evening. So first a problem, and then a heart sink moment. We don't have to have one of each. We can take a sprinkle. So would anybody like to go first?
I'll talk about the heart sink rather than the problem. And it all boils down to the fact that I'm almost I don't know how to put this and get it right. I find that when I either go to the wards or go for big meetings, people will not expect me to be the CNIO. Yeah. And I think they would walk past me, blank me, and when they realise I'm the CNIO, and they're all fun and games and hi, hello, how are you? And you get the fact that even within the boards, you have one or two people that have literally told me to, you know, kind of, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. You know, so you get people that will come to your face and will challenge you, and I've had a lot of that. And I think being a black female, what we tend to get is people say you're aggressive. So because they say you're aggressive, you've got to kind of almost not have that. I'm a really happy person. I don't care what day it is, it's raining, whatever it is, I'm always smiling. Not a lot of people will accept that, which I understand, but we're there to do a job, not to say the weather's not good and just get on with it. And I think for me, it's been quite difficult having to deal with people that look at you and judge you straight from the beginning, and having to sit back and decide, how do I kind of react to someone that's standing above me, talking to me, pointing in my face, that's a colleague of mine, and telling me you're wrong, and having to respond properly to that without actually being rude to the person, or doing exactly what that person is doing back to me. So I've had a lot of that from people, and I've had long emails apologizing, because what I tend to do now is just sit down, let the person finish, and I say, well, okay, well, if that's your opinion, that's fine, but I'm not wrong. I'm not going to shout about this. You come back to me when you're less, aggressive. And I just kind of flip the switch on people. I've been on a ward just quickly, and I've had a senior nurse, because of the boards I put up, pull me into an office, lock the door, stand in front of me, point her fingers in my face and tell me, who the hell do you think you are? And I realize it's because that's how she speaks to people in general. Maybe it's just the fact that she gets away with it. So I let her finish. And at the back of that, I told her straight away, you do not speak to me like that. I'm not going to carry on with this conversation. And she saw me in one of the board meetings, and I can tell you the shock on her face, because I still didn't tell her who I was. She literally almost fell out of the board meeting, literally. So I think it's just being calm and just not allow the preconceptions to kind of boil you down, really.
Anybody else would like to share how to solve a problem? Or
Okay. If we're allowed to solve problems, I've got a long list of problems I'm trying to fix in the NHS right now. And I've been trying to think, actually. I've got such a long list. If you could just do one each, that would be magic. But let me give one, which would be unique staff identity. And the problem's multi-layered, and it's probably take more than one solution. But the aim is that any piece of information anywhere in the NHS, either at the point at which it is entered or the point at which it is accessed, that is to say looked at, leaves the individual's unique digital footprint against that piece of data. I've entered it or I've looked at it. Full stop, every time, guaranteed, without that being additional burden on staff. So we've attempted solutions to that are so clunky that you get those little cards in the keyboard with the little note attached, please don't take this out or the whole thing stops working, which doesn't give us the unique guarantee. So that's the problem. If someone there are more than one solution. I know some people are working on it, but not the whole thing end to end. That'd be gorgeous. Heart sync moment. I've touched on it. The wider operating environment being almost impossible, and if you speak to colleagues at St Thomas's or at the Homerton who've worked with me, one of the comments is that I'm tediously or relentlessly optimistic, which I sort of wear with pride, though apparently it gets quite painful. But to find myself not wanting to get out of bed in the morning, that actually this is just going to be one more bloody day of not even getting the boulder any further uphill, but just pushing. And here am I as a middle-aged white male with every ounce of privilege that comes with that, which I'm absolutely used to and not afraid to use. Sorry, it makes the job easier. And we can have that conversation another time. But I'm going, do you know what? I'm not sure I can do this at all. How anyone's meant to do that, I don't know. We need to ensure that anyone at any level has got safe spaces they can have, the right support network, to have those conversations, to get the support they need to get through what is inevitably going to be hard. If it's not hard, you haven't understood the level at which you're playing.
Thank you. Any comments from the other two panel members?
I'm just going to add to what you've just said, but I completely echo. I think for my heart sunk moment is waking up in the morning thinking, I can't get through today. And it is really hard. And I can't get through today because people aren't listening to me. I can't get through today because, and I said it earlier on, and not because I'm a female, I hope it's not because I'm a female, but more because I'm just so young. In the organisations that I've worked at and the levels that I've worked at, they are, no offence, Simon, but, older white males, and they sort of look at me and they're like, what do you know? You haven't got 20 years of experience behind you. I'm like, I might not know, but what I do know is telling me, my gut's telling me this is the right thing to do. And when you push down, you're just like, great. But the thing that I've used to get over that is resilience, is giving myself that safe space to go and vent and cry. I've had meetings where I've put on a straight face and I've walked out and I have just gone maybe to the ladies, to my car, and just bawled my eyes out because it has been such a tough discussion. But one thing, and it sounds really bad, what I won't do is sit in that room and show that emotion, because I've been in situations and I've learned through that when I show the emotion, it doesn't, and it's not a bad environment, it's just resistance and resilience, and you don't learn that at school, you don't learn that on a day-to-day basis. That comes when you get to, these kind of situations. Could be. So that's me.
Thank you. Shera?
In terms of problems, interoperability and access to shared records, I think would be, if we can crack this problem, it would actually be a complete game changer. We're making small steps, but I think we could do a lot more. I got really angry when I was listening to Anna sharing her experience, because I think I've been there. At CIO, CCIO level, I mentioned there are 5 in the country. I was one of them till last year. And people still get me mixed up with the one other East Asian CIO in the country. There are just 2 of us who look vaguely like me, and they still think I'm her, or they think we're the same person. How is this possible? I mean, I don't think I look like Sarah Jensen from Bart's Health, particularly, but it happens, and I keep getting asked if I'm the administrator when I go to meetings, or when I was supervising a Darcy fellow, I was asked if I was the fellow rather than the medical director. It just happens so often, you get almost immune to it because you get a very thick skin.
Thank you. Now we're running out of time for questions. So because this has been quite serious and quite low, especially the last bit, I'd like you all to uplift yourself and answer the first question and say, you are all remarkable people, as are all of you. I mean, you've all made the effort to come here on, what day are we? Tuesday. To think that it's been a long week and it's only Tuesday. And I think we all share that feeling of not wanting to get out of bed. Times are hard. But you guys have all made it, as some might say, and some of the people here want to know how you make it. So I'm going to start with you, Shera. What makes you remarkable? Just one thing.
I think patience, and just drawing from them, and the contact I have with them, which I would never normally have if I wasn't a clinician.
Very short anecdote, but some of you know it. My son was born at 26 weeks, which was tough, and had a grade 4 intraventricular hemorrhage on one side, which was a lot tougher. And we watched some outstanding care, and I remain extremely grateful to the teams. And we watched some not particularly amazing patient interaction, which was interesting to be part of as a parent. And it made me a very different doctor, and I interact with people very differently as a consequence of that process, I hope. And when I was applying for this job, I went to my mentor, Amanda Pritchard, who has now got another job, and had a long conversation about it. And she said she knows me very well, and that's wonderful. And as a chief exec, that shows that she probably listens to people, and I'm very grateful to her. And she said, Simon, this is a very senior job, yes it is, and it will come with a lot of trappings, yes it does. So I've got a bit of advice. Don't be an arsehole. Which God, this is being bloody light. Anyway, there we are. I'll handle that later. It was still very good advice, but it's one of the reasons, strangely, I'm always wearing coloured socks, usually pink, is to try and remind me, and it does, and it reminds me to be me and not get too up myself in the job. And I don't know whether I've succeeded, but if that's the thing I'd like to be, is still be me in the midst of all the stuff that comes with this. And it's quite a challenge sometimes.
Great, thank you.
And you've stolen my line. That's not helpful. Socks. So for me it's about being me. It's being open, it's being honest. And you know what? Maybe one day I'll make a CEO, maybe I won't. Maybe I haven't got what it takes, but I'm happy just being me and making a difference, however small it is, but making that difference.
Thank you.
For me, it's just to keep smiling. Even though I know I'm burning inside me, I will keep smiling, because I think a lot of people are going through difficult times, and I don't want to be the one that tips it for them. So I think I'd rather be the one that takes them to the other side and make them smile. I think it's just, even though your role is difficult and you are going through that tough moment whereby you've been asked and you're under pressure, I think regardless of what you're going through, just keep smiling through it. And you know what? The sun will shine regardless. And that's it.
Exactly. And as a Scottish person once said to me, it's only wet sunshine when it rains. So on that note, can we give a massive, massive thank you to our panel? And we're going to hear in a very virtual way from another remarkable woman, Rachel Dunscombe, who is the CEO of the NHS Digital Academy.
Hello, Rachel Dunscombe here. I am so sorry that I'm not with you. I know how amazing the One HealthTech events are, and I wish I could be there, but unfortunately I committed to be somewhere else, so sorry about that. But thank you to Maxine and the crew for asking me to reflect on the Academy and professionalism, because I think we've made a huge amount of progress in the last 3 years. I've just been reflecting this week, actually, on where we started. So I was sat just under 3 years ago with Bob Wachter in a room in London, and we were just starting the work around annotating the Wachter Review, which has led to so much of what we're doing today. Now we're actually on to recruiting cohort 3 of the Academy. We've moved really, really quickly. We've done the Topol Review. We've got the Topol Fellows. We've got Health Education England, NHSX, all working together towards a professional future. And actually, it's incredibly heartening as well to hear Matthew Gould say that he has our backs and that he's going to create a set of professions with us where we'll be taken seriously in the boardroom when we're working with boards. So I think we have made the progress, as much progress as I'd hoped we'd make. Indeed, I think we're leading the world on some of this, and I'd like to shout out to everyone that's been involved in the Academy, especially cohort 1 and 2. who've helped us tune the content, because we are making content for the NHS with the NHS, and we have the universities who are actually, facilitating the programme. But this is something that both of the cohorts have had a huge contribution to. And so other nations are really looking at what we're doing. We're talking to Southern Ireland, Republic of Ireland. We're talking to the Nordics, and up in Denmark shortly to talk to them. Talking to Kaiser's Medical School, who wanted to look at what we'd done because they've started a digital medical school. Talking to New Zealand and others who are quite inspired by the progress we've made. But overall, for me, I think it's very nice to belong to a profession, to belong to a family, and also to have the academy, which is taking people that have come through a more vocational route alongside those that have gone, through PhDs and creating a digital health profession from people from very disparate backgrounds, but who have the same, vision and aspiration. It is a wonderful thing. And it's very great to see the actual mix that we have in there now as well. We have digital health professionals, we have clinicians, we have social workers, everyone through from dentists, nurses, through to doctors and pharmacists. So it's great to see the whole digital health family joining together on the Academy. So I'm hoping you're going to have a great event, and you'll see probably quite a lot of Twitter traffic from me from the next residential and the first graduation that we've got for the Academy coming in November. But thank you to all of you for your support on this journey, and also thank you to everyone that is part of this journey to digital health professionalism. I think as I said, as a family, we're making a real difference and creating a space where we can lead globally in digital health. So enjoy your evening, and hopefully see you all soon. Take care.
I feel a bit weird saying thank you, Rachel, when she's not there. So to close us off and to thank our sponsors, I'm going to invite Ele, who heads up the London hub.
So good evening, everyone. So thank you so much to our lovely panelists for this evening. I just wanted to say thank you so much to Palantir for hosting us this evening, in particular to Ben and Louis, if you could give a little wave so that everyone can see you. So thank you very, very much. And just a few things. So if you enjoyed this event and you would like to be part of One HealthTech or find out a bit more about One HealthTech, we have a great new flashy website. So please do check it out. You can sign up to be a member of the community. We also have a kind of mentorship program that we call our Hero program. So if ever you think that you could potentially inspire the next generation in whatever it is that you're doing, sign up to be a mentor so that we can then find you a mentee and you can inspire them in that way. If you're actually interested in helping out with the setting up of these type of events, you are more than welcome to join the London core team that I am part of, and Claire, who is sitting right there, is also part of the core team. So if ever you want to join, please come talk to us while we're having drinks. Then another way in which you can help is obviously giving us money and hosting or offering venues as well to host some events. We will be hosting events in the future. We're currently arranging one on sexual health. If it's something that you're interested in and you would like to host us, we're looking for a venue, so please do come and contact us. And that's it for now. So please help yourself to pizza and wine, which are upstairs, and please join me in thanking again our sponsors and our amazing panelists.